drop yourself right into the freezing, rain-soaked, wind-battered chaos of the circuit Gilles Villeneuve. Forget the glamour, forget the PR spin. Today, we aren't just reading you the final classification from the Canadian Grand Prix because honestly, the final classification lies.
Oh, it absolutely lies.
Wow.
I mean, a driver can stand on the podium and still have had just a disastrous, panic-inducing weekend behind the scenes.
Right. It was a complete survival test out there.
When the track temperature plummets and that icy rain cuts across the St. Lawrence River, you aren't racing the other cars. You are racing the elements. Cold, wet conditions are the ultimate unforgiving lie detector test for a Formula One car's operating window.
Because you either have the heat in the rubber or you're a passenger.
Exactly. You're just along for the ride at that point.
Which is exactly why we are opening up a leaked, highly granular dossier of internal performance ratings from this weekend. We have exclusive team data graded on a 0 to 10 scale, covering chassis performance, strategic execution, and driver psychology.
And we really need to unpack this. We're looking at the real winners, the shocking losers, and those microscopic margins that completely dismantled multi-million-dollar operations in a matter of laps.
Yes, and we have to start with the most glaring data point in this entire internal dossier, McLaren. They received a literal 0 rating for this weekend.
A 0. It's just staggering.
I am still reeling from this. You look at the grid on Sunday, they have a front row lockout. They have the raw pace. And what do? They opt to start on the intermediate tire when the track is visibly dry.
It wasn't raining.
Right. It wasn't even raining. The crossover delta, the lap time where slick tires become faster than inters was screaming at them to stay on slicks.
I mean, it is inexplicable arrogance from the pit wall. Look, when you're a midfield team sitting in 15th with absolutely nothing to lose, sure, you roll the dice.
You take a gamble.
Yeah, you put on inters, you pray for a sudden torrential downpour, and you hope you jump 10 cars when everyone else has to pit. But when you are at the front, dictating the pace of a world championship, you do not gamble your weekend on a notoriously unreliable microclimate radar.
I don't understand the psychology there. Why take a hero or 0 risk when you already hold all the cards? It's like gambling your entire paycheck on a single roulette spin when you're already rich.
That's exactly what it is.
You just cover the strategy of the cars directly behind you. Instead, they bolt on the green-walled inters, the rain takes another, 15 minutes to arrive, and they instantly burn the tread off the tires.
Well, yeah, because an intermediate tire on a dry, cold track generates immense surface friction without the water to cool it down.
It just overheats.
The tread walks literally melt and tear away within 3 laps. And that strategic panic on the pit wall, it bled instantaneously into the cockpit. Look at Oscar Piastri's telemetry from lap 1.
It's messy.
He knew the tire choice was fatal, and instead of managing the slip ratio, he overcompensated.
He was driving angry. You look at the onboard into the hairpin, and he's locking up the fronts repeatedly. It's like he's playing a video game.
He's asking the tire for grip that simply doesn't exist. When you lock a cold intermediate tire on a dry patch of asphalt, you glaze the surface of the rubber.
Oh, so it hardens up.
Right, turns into hard plastic. He was throwing the car into the braking zones with 0 regard for the physics of his equipment, and the collateral damage was immediate. I mean, he completely ruins Alex Albon's race, smashing into his side pod because he couldn't decelerate.
Which is just awful. Albon takes a DNF, totally blameless because Piastri just lost his head. But the other side of the McLaren garage is just as fascinating. Lando Norris suffers a mechanical DNF.
Yeah, a total disaster.
First, they have to pit him to clean debris out of the radiators, and then a fatal gearbox failure ends his race. What actually causes a gearbox to shatter like that in these conditions?
It's directly tied to the cold track. A Formula One tire is basically a block of rigid carbon-infused plastic until it hits about 100 degrees Celsius.
Yeah.
To get that heat, you need the chassis to literally crush the tire into the ground. But when the tire is cold and the track is green, the rubber doesn't bite. It slips, and grips in rapid succession.
Oh, wow. So the tire is bouncing across the asphalt at a micro level.
Exactly. That creates a violent, high-frequency vibration called tire chatter. And that kinetic energy has nowhere to go but up.
Straight into the car.
That chatter creates a harmonic resonance that travels directly through the suspension wishbones and straight into the carbon casing of the gearbox. It literally shakes the internal gear clusters apart.
That is insane. So McLaren's 0 rating isn't just about the pit wall. It's a mechanical and psychological implosion across the entire team.
Top to bottom, a total failure.
Okay, but this brings us to Red Bull. And this is where I need to push back on the data a bit. Max Verstappen dragged that Red Bull to a third-place finish. He's on the podium.
He is.
Yet our internal metrics give Red Bull a 5 out of 10. A 5. How are we grading a podium finish as a mediocre weekend?
Because we are grading the chassis, not the driver.
Okay.
Max Verstappen essentially papered over the cracks of a failing engineering concept this weekend. Red Bull has brought these aggressive floor upgrades, and the operating window for that chassis right now is terrifyingly narrow.
Narrow, meaning they can't get the tires to work.
It goes way deeper than that. The Red Bull generates its downforce heavily through the underfloor aero. To keep that floor sealed to the track, they have to run the suspension incredibly stiff.
Right, to maintain the ride height.
But in cold conditions like we had in Montreal, a stiff suspension skips over the track surface. You need mechanical compliance, suspension travel to physically work the tire and generate internal carcass temperature. Red Bull couldn't do it.
So the tire just slides.
It slides, the surface rubber tears away from the cold core, and you get aggressive, instantaneous graining.
Which explains so much. If you're watching the onboard cameras at home, you probably notice Max constantly playing with the steering wheel dials, specifically adjusting his brake bias forward.
Every single corner.
Yeah. You might think he's just managing brake temperatures, but he's actually trying to force energy into the front tires to wake them up.
Exactly. He was shifting the brake bias heavily to the front, intentionally trying to generate friction heat through the brake discs to radiate outward into the wheel rims.
That is just brilliant driving.
Max saved that weekend purely through his own freakish driving talent, wrestling a car that fundamentally refused to rotate. But a team cannot rely on their driver pulling a rabbit out of a hat every single Sunday. If Red Bull doesn't widen that mechanical operating window, they're going to get buried by Ferrari and Mercedes.
Wait, let's talk about Mercedes, because the math on their rating makes even less sense to me. Kimi Antonelli won the race in a Mercedes.
He did. Incredible drive.
But the internal reliability rating for the Mercedes package across the grid is a 2. The race winners get a 2 out of 10 for reliability. Are we punishing them for a failure that hasn't even happened yet?
We are looking at the thermal limits of the power unit, and it is a ticking time bomb. I mean, you do not win a world championship with a glass cannon.
So the engine is that fragile right now.
Yes. Antonelli won, but look at the broader telemetry across all their engines. George Russell suffered a catastrophic mechanical DNF. His car just shut down.
Oh, and it wasn't just the factory team. Franco Colapinto, running the Mercedes customer engine in his Alpine, missed all of Friday practice because of a severe battery and electrical fault.
The Mercedes power unit is arguably the benchmark for pure deployment right now. But they are running the MGU-K, the kinetic motor generator, on the absolute razor's edge of its thermal capacity.
I think it's too hard.
Way too hard. The energy recovery systems are being pushed to limits that are fundamentally compromising durability. If you are taking 10-place grid penalties in September because you've burned through your allocation of engine components, it doesn't matter that you had the fastest car in June.
It's a massive liability. Mercedes is out here trying to control the temperature of a battery cells down to the micro degree, and yet all that billion-dollar engineering is completely at the mercy of chaotic human variables.
Oh, absolutely.
Because the midfield was an absolute mess of human error this weekend. We have Isaac Hadjar rated at a 3.
A completely wasted weekend. With McLaren taking themselves out, Hadjar had the pace to score massive points. Instead, he threw it away with pure, unadulterated recklessness.
The weaving against Charles Leclerc was wild. He's throwing the car left and right in the braking zone.
And we have to explain the mechanics of why that is so incredibly dangerous in the modern era. With the current energy recovery systems, these cars decelerate at vastly different rates depending on their deployment modes.
Okay, break that down for us.
Think of the ERS like throwing a heavy anchor out the back of the car. If Leclerc is in a high regeneration mode, harvesting a massive amount of battery power under braking, his anchor is huge. He stops violently.
Right, and if Hadjar is on a different engine map?
He essentially has no anchor. So when Hadjar weaves under braking, moving twice and running Leclerc out of road, he's instantly closing a 30-mile-per-hour speed differential in a fraction of a second. It is begging for an airplane crash.
And then he tops it off by ignoring yellow flags and earning a stop-and-go penalty. It's a 3 out of 10 because you cannot be that fast and that foolish.
Exactly. Compare that lack of discipline to Carlos Sainz in the Williams.
Huge contrast. Sainz scores a 7 for a stellar recovery drive to finish 9th.
Williams started the year in a crisis. The car was massively overweight, but they've methodically shed that weight, which entirely changes the yaw inertia of the car.
It's so much more agile now.
Exactly. Sainz started on the Inters too, realized the crossover delta was wrong, immediately boxed to correct the mistake, and methodically carved through the field. That is how a veteran maximizes a compromised weekend.
But I mean, even a veteran can't plan for the bizarre track realities of Montreal. Mercedes is managing battery thermals, Williams is calculating crossover deltas, and all of it gets ruined by a groundhog.
The marmots. You can't write this stuff.
We literally have a rating of 1 dedicated to the marmot factor this weekend.
It sounds absurd, but it fundamentally altered the weekend. Albon hit a marmot early in practice, which destroyed his front wing and derailed his entire run plan.
And Gasly had a near miss at, what, 300 kilometers an hour?
Yeah, right on the racing line.
I know it's their natural habitat, but we are running a global sport with aerodynamic cars that rely on millimeter-perfect underfloor airflow. A 10-pound rodent on the track isn't just sad for the animal, it's a massive safety hazard that can literally launch a car into the barriers.
It is the ultimate paradox of Formula One. You have the most advanced, data-driven engineering ecosystem on the planet, and it is entirely fragile.
So fragile.
A 10-degree temperature drop, a misread radar, or local wildlife can instantly neutralize $1 billion of development.
Which perfectly sets up the shifting dynamic we saw on Sunday, because while the veterans were either breaking down, misreading the weather, or dodging wildlife, the rookie class completely hijacked this race.
They didn't just step up. They kicked the door off its hinges. Look at Charles Leclerc. He finished fourth, but his telemetry was erratic.
He looked so nervous out there.
He was nervous on the brakes, constantly missing the apex, and was thoroughly outclassed by his teammate Lewis Hamilton. The established stars looked really vulnerable.
Let's unpack Franco Colapinto first. He scores a massive 9.5 rating for an absolute masterclass in the Alpine, finishing 6th. And remember, because of that Mercedes battery issue we talked about, he missed Friday practice entirely.
To jump into the car for sprint qualifying with 0 practice laps on a green track that feels like driving on ice and immediately outqualify Pierre Gasly, it's staggering.
What changed? Because looking at his steering inputs, he looks like a completely different driver compared to the start of the season.
It comes down to the chassis connection. Alpine introduced a new, stiffer chassis form recently, and the telemetry difference is night and day.
Yeah.
A driver doesn't feel the car through their hands, right?
Yeah.
They feel the rotational yaw of the car through their lower back and hips.
Oh, so if the chassis flexes under load,
the driver gets a delayed signal. If the carbon fiber twists unpredictably, the grip limit isn't translated instantly to the driver's hips. They lose trust, and they hesitate on the throttle.
makes total sense.
Colapinto's new chassis is rigid. It provides linear, instantaneous feedback. He is perfectly synced with that machine. He can lean on the outside rear tire earlier in the corner exit, and he has decisively usurped Gasly as the team leader.
But even Colapinto gets overshadowed by the race winner, Kimi Antonelli, 19 years old, driving for Mercedes, rated 9.5.
An absolute statement victory.
He went aggressively wheel-to-wheel with George Russell before Russell's car broke down, and Antonelli showed absolutely zero deference.
None.
He pushed his veteran teammate to the absolute limit on corner entry. I have to ask you, is this arrogance? When you have the fastest car on the grid, fighting your own teammate that viciously is a massive risk. Isn't that how you crash both cars and ruin the team's entire weekend?
Is it a risk? Yes. But arrogance, let me reframe that. You call it arrogance, I call it the prerequisite psychology of a world champion.
Wow.
If you are 19 years old and you yield to your veteran teammate out of respect, you will never be the #1 driver. Antonelli is looking at the exact same telemetry as Russell. He sees the braking traces. He knows he has the raw pace advantage.
So he's actively forcing the issue to establish dominance.
It's the Chulido attitude. That slight cockiness is him marking his territory. He is sending a direct message across the garage. I am not your understudy. I am not here to learn from you. I am here to take your crown.
And Mercedes must secretly love it. They want a killer in that seat, not a passenger.
Exactly. Antonelli proved he isn't just fast in clean air when everything is perfect. He is ruthless in direct, dirty air combat.
Contrast that ruthless success with the absolute psychological nightmare happening at Haas. Another rookie, Oliver Biermann, scores a solid 7.
He had a great race.
He grabs a point in 10th with a brilliant, aggressive start. But his veteran teammate, Esteban Ocon, finished 15th and was literally lapped by Biermann.
Lapped in identical machinery. It's total psychological destruction.
Ocon was on the radio complaining about the car's balance all weekend long.
Well, the telemetry doesn't lie. When your rookie teammate is pulling a second a lap on you in the exact same aerodynamic package, the problem isn't the balance of the car.
It's the driver.
The problem is in the cockpit.
Hmm.
Bierman is flying, adapting to the grip limits dynamically, while Ocon is completely lost in his own head.
And the rumors are already swirling that Ocon is on his way out, which just poisons the garage atmosphere even further.
It creates a vicious cycle. You lose confidence, your lap times drop, the engineers naturally start gravitating toward the faster rookie, you feel alienated, and your performance craters even further.
It's brutal.
Bierman has effectively ended Ocon's relevance within Haas in the span of just a few races.
It truly is a changing of the guard.
Yeah.
So when we pull all these granular threads together, from McLaren's zero to Antonelli's dominance, what is the ultimate takeaway from Montreal?
We are looking at a highly volatile, highly technical championship where the old rules simply no longer apply. The veterans aren't finished. Obviously, Lewis Hamilton was phenomenal this weekend. He smiled his way to a beautiful second-place finish, proving his racecraft and tire management are still unmatched. But the raw, disruptive energy of this rookie class is destabilizing the entire established order of the grid.
Antonelli is now leading the internal para rankings for the entire season. Think about that. A 19-year-old is mathematically the highest-rated driver on the grid right now.
He has earned it. But as we saw with McLaren's strategic arrogance, Red Bull's stiff suspension woes, and Mercedes' melting batteries, the margins separating victory from a DNF are microscopic.
They really are.
Antonelli is leading, but he is driving a thermal glass cannon that might just shut down underneath him in the very next race.
That is the incredible tension of this sport. You can have the bravado, you can have the generational talent, and you can outbrake your teammate into turn one. But if your pit wall misreads the crossover delta, or if your chassis can't mechanically generate tire heat, or if a local groundhog decides to cross the track at the exact wrong moment, you are absolutely powerless.
It is the ultimate crucible. The technology is engineered to perfection right up until it violently collides with the chaotic realities of nature and human emotion.
I want to leave you with a thought to mull over before the next race. For decades, we have watched rookies enter Formula One with a sense of mandated deference. You keep your head down, you absorb data from the veteran, you pay your dues in the midfield. But watching KIMI Antonelli go wheel to wheel, absolutely ready to force a seasoned race winner off the track to claim his territory, are we witnessing the definitive death of paying your dues in motorsport? Is raw, unapologetic, ruthless aggression now the only acceptable currency to survive in this new era of Formula One? Think about it. We'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.